Wait a minute. There we go. Okay. I knew I was in trouble. I absolutely knew I was in trouble. You're sitting there and it's like, okay, pushing buttons, trying to get everything squared away. And do you get there in time? No, of course not. It's like you remembered that one thing that I always remember to forget when it's, you get the banner up like that. And then you always forget to take the banner off in a double click. So, forgot to do that again. So, welcome to another another week of SDH. John, hear you there. And we'll go through what happened over the weekend. And MLS is down to its final four, 2 on each side. And we'll go through all of those matches and your thoughts on those and the coaches' discussions after the fact and all of that stuff. We got news of the morning, obviously. And 10:30, like the last half hour of the show, specifically what I want to do is I want to kind of bring Prem and Proper forward a little bit. And so Maddie Cruz is going to join us, and we'll kind of go cruising through the Prem, and we'll kind of see what's going on. But, last half hour specifically, we'll talk about what happened in the Premier League last weekend, and we get you set for Monday Night Football. And, you can't have a discussion about what happened in the Premier League without, talking about this.
Dallo joining in from fullback. Dallo for Garnacho! Oh, wow! Oh, wow! That is one of the great goals in front of a stunned Gladys Street.
And so, once again, courtesy of our friends at NBC Sports Soccer, that was Peter Drury on the Garnacho bicycle kick, finishing with the Cristiano Ronaldo celebration. But Garnacho is far younger than CR38 is currently. But, Peter Drury, once again, reinforcing why he's one of the great voices of the game with a call like that. And once again, thanks to our friends at NBC Sports and the Premier League for that. But, like last half hour, we'll specifically kind of talk about the weekend that was, get into some of the news and notes. But don't let that keep you from let me know what you think. And we'll talk about it all morning. But a concerted effort in the last half hour of the show will bring Prem and Proper into live action for like the last half hour of the show, like the last 20, 30 minutes of the show. We'll get into all of that and discuss what happened there when it came to life in the Premier League over the weekend. And there's plenty to talk about. I mean, so you've got De Zerbi, who doesn't shake hands with Steve Cooper. Luton Town gets a win. Pochettino is threatening to cancel Chelsea's day off after getting thumped by Newcastle. The protest, let's put it that way. The protest that we had at Everton, where they had practically every fan holding up a pink piece of paper with the Premier League logo on it that said corrupt. So it was another weekend of just calm and level heads and everything that was going on there as well. So you've got folks who were just yelling about it. The mayor of Greater Manchester has decided that he wanted to say something about it, so he did. We got another round of stupidity down here. So there's plenty to get into this morning, especially overseas, and we'll get into all of that this morning. So I guess Garnacho ended up being the opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. It's been a while. So there's the QR code for those of you who are watching, however you are consuming us this morning, whether it's on the YouTube channel, on the Twitch feed, or on the 280-character app. And that's a QR code there. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the Youth Game Youth Initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So there you go. Once again, whatever you guys have on your mind this morning, did you watch the 4 matches this weekend? What'd you watch? What'd you think? Like I said, we got news. We got stuff to talk about. And like I said, last 20, 30 minutes, we'll specifically get into what happened in the Premier League, but we'll rock and roll from there. Hutch goes, remember, you haven't had enough coffee until you can thread the needle of a running sewing machine. So we'll I have yet to be able to do that. So Rich, since you were in, and being the Philadelphia Union supporter here on the show that leads the charge, I guess we'll go ahead and we'll we'll go ahead and start with Philly. So Rich is doing us all a public service. He says, all right, let's all hear your incorrect Atlanta-based Jim Curtin hot takes. And we'll get into Jim Curtin's post after as well. Michael did not watch any sports after Saturday afternoon. Oh, you watch? Yeah. So, yeah, and I was at the Iron Bowl. Yeah, so we can get into Iron Bowl. That might be a bit of a pushed back opening kickoff discussing college football down here. Niall, apparently most MLS teams are bad, according to Jim Curtin. By math, he's right. So no, I was there, and so I was there for that particular match. See, that's the thing. And I said it that way, and that is literally what I've been up to ever since I've been starting to cover soccer as a part of football. I literally am now to the point where I'm calling games involving American football. I've started to call them matches. So literally it is, a football game, an American football game. I have literally started to call them matches as well. So that's let's just say that it's intriguing. And I have to sit here and think twice about everything that is processing through all of this stuff. So let's just say it's interesting sometimes when I have to catch myself to go, match instead of game when it comes to American football. So I'm literally having to catch myself these days when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it's an odd dynamic now, covering so much soccer as I do. Literally, it is having to think and process all of this activity through and go, well, you're not wrong, Bob. But it is an odd dynamic. Trust me. It's an odd dynamic calling an American football game a match. And, when you're hanging around as much as you are, that's the way it ends up sometimes. So it's pretty funny. All right. So, the back and forth has continued. 29 teams, only 16 get in. Much like the National Hockey League. Here we go. Included Atlanta as one of the teams. Yeah, the back and forth. Here we go. There we go. Abby, good morning. So yeah, we got all this going on. All right. So since Rich and Niall have already started the back and forth, let's go ahead and start with what happened with Philly and Cincinnati. And yeah, hey, guys, go for it this morning. I'm just enjoying seeing the conversation. So here's the goal from the match, and it's courtesy of our friends at Apple TV, and it happened later than late.
Acosta on the free kick. Elfoth wants to roll that back just several yards on the restart. Now across. This ball hit on the cross opportunity. Here it is! Cincinnati in second half stoppage time has the lead.
When the ball comes in from Barreal and then the ball is headed, it's the header from Murphy, heads it down to Mosquera. The question will be, is Murphy in an offside position when he heads the ball? VAR will be taking a good look at it. But the reaction from Mosquera, the finish from Mosquera, when he woke up this morning, he didn't think that he was potentially going to be sending Cincinnati into the next round of the MLS playoff.
And so that was your highlight. Once again, that was Kanji and Danny on Apple TV with that one, also courtesy of our friends at Major League Soccer. So let's see, and Julian Carranza discussing that goal after the match, and this comes from Philadelphia Inquirer. We saw the video, the pictures, and it's just unbelievable. Carranza, whose right foot was in the microscope, as what might have kept the goal legal. Carranza says, I was in the box, but the guy, half of his body was offside. And there is there is video that has been posted, kind of sitting there and you're checking. And, header down into the mix. Player was from an offside position, comes back onside. So VAR ruled it as a good goal. Alejandro Bedoya, after the match. Heartbreaking to lose that way, especially off a set piece that we just lose our markers in the box. I think it could have been offside, should have been offside, but coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? We had our chances and we didn't convert. And when you leave yourself susceptible to a one-goal game, that can happen. So now the questions start for Philadelphia. And Kai Wagner's out of contract. Joe Bendick on a one-year deal. Carranza could be sold to Europe. Mbaizo could go to Cameroon's AFCON work in January. He could get a move abroad, according to Tannewald. McGlynn already has a line of scouts watching. You got the Olympics coming up. You've got CONCACAF. You've got Leagues Cup. McGlynn, Harry will possibly going to the Olympics. Blake and Damian Lowe going to Copa America. Gazdag going to the Euros with Hungary. And then Bedoya turned in from Tannewald, turned in a slew of vintage performances in recent weeks. He wants another year. Jim Curtin wants him to get it, and they have to convince Ernst Tanner to agree. Rich is saying go ahead and blow up the roster and sign 4 new DPs. And by the way, the idea about the 4th DP, it is being floated. We do not have any kind of independent confirmation when it comes to whether or not it is going to happen next season. But I know that we have all been talking about here on the show the idea of a 4th DP as a part of continuing to grow rosters, growing the league, etc. And that is something that we're going to have to kind of keep an eye on here. Is that 4th DP going to be a part of expanding of the salary cap? All these kinds of things. So we've got to keep an eye on that as well. But Rich is a fan of blowing up the roster and signing 4 new DPs. So let's look at the analysis here. Courtesy of our friends at Transfermarkt. And Rich, if you would be so kind, just to back us up on this, because I'm going to be looking at the roster, and if there's a contract status that our friends at Transfermarkt do not have correct, then let me know. So here's what you've got to look at with 23. At the end of the 23 season heading forward. So looking at contracts, end of the calendar year, and there's a lot of them. Bedoya, Bendick, Lowe, Wagner, Real, Leon Flock, Jesus Bueno, Raffanello, Holden Trent, Anton Sorensen, Chris Donovan. And then Sullivan, Mbaizo, and Joaquin Torres. So those are others that are a part of the discussion. But 3, 6, 9, 11 players out of contract for Philadelphia. And they now have a handful of hours to determine who stays, who goes, who's under discussion. And midweek, we'll have a better idea as to what Philadelphia wants to do. We'll have a better idea as to what Seattle wants to do. We'll have a better idea as to what Orlando wants to do. And we'll have a better idea as to what all of these teams want to do who, got knocked out in this round, and Sporting Kansas City being the fourth. Sporting's got some interesting questions. But yeah, when these four teams get to announce in the next handful of days who they're hanging on to, who they're jettisoning, all that kind of stuff, that'll add to more of the dynamic here. But 11 players Philadelphia's got to look at. And like I said, Jim Curtin has said that he wants to keep Alejandro Bedoya around for another year. Bedoya, Curtin said, there's always changes, but look, I've been on the record a million times. Alejandro is bigger than anybody that's ever been at our club, myself included. He should 100% be back. His play on the field speaks for itself. Bedoya tried to, once again, this is from Tannenwald at the Inquirer, as he put it, stop myself from saying anything right now just because I don't want to give you any headlines or anything. But he couldn't help himself. I respect the hell out of Jim a lot, Bedoya said. I don't know what's going to happen. Who knows? But if this is the end, then, we'll see what happens. More from Bedoya. Jim's been, him, he's a great coach, great manager, but an even better person off the field. A family man, a guy that you can always confide in, someone who I've always had a great relationship with. So if this is the end, I've loved every minute of playing under him and everything we've accomplished together because we've achieved a blanking whole lot together. And I imagine we all know what that blanking word is. Bedoya never directly mentioned his terse exchange with Tanner at practice a few weeks ago. When Bedoya was asked about his contract status, Tanner said Bedoya wasn't coming back, but he came pretty close. Bedoya, there's been a lot on my mind the last month and a half. Sometimes there's a business of sports, but certainly there's a right way to go about business. Bedoya continued. This amount of uncertainty sucks. I appreciate Jonathan sitting there and bracketing the word stinks, but we'll go ahead and say it. We can assume that the word is sucks. This amount of uncertainty sucks, and it's been on my mind a whole lot. I still have a high soccer IQ, and I know I'm still having a high value and impact on the team. I have all these stats in my hand, so they'll never be able to use that ish against me. I think I've earned a certain level of respect, and when you don't give that to me, it says a lot about people's character. I'll just leave it at that, end quote. Curtin. I think anywhere in the world, the head coach would have a say in what's up with his captain. I think there was a miscommunication for sure, so we'll see how that plays out. So Jim Curtin is saying, I think there was a miscommunication. If 6 weeks ago, Ernst Tanner said he's not coming back, I don't know where the miscommunication is, but if Tanner says one thing and then you have Jim Curtin basically say, I think there was a miscommunication for sure. This seems like an early bit of a push for in a power play here. So who is going to win out in this discussion is the larger question. So if Tanner says Bedoya is not coming back 6 weeks ago, then after the match yesterday, Jim Curtin says, I think there was a miscommunication for sure. I don't know how you can miscommunicate when you sit there and say he's not coming back. But this is an interesting play by Jim Curtin in the forum of public opinion, as we call it. It's an interesting play. It's a very interesting play. Tannenwald, as bad as it would be for the Union to burn bridges with Bedoya, Flock, and Bueno, are waiting in the wings. Quinn Sullivan's waiting to move back to midfield. From purely an on-field perspective, the biggest ticket item is replacing Carranza if he's sold. Union will have to plow as much money as possible into his replacement because striker is the most important and most expensive position. Carranza, right now I'm just still angry from the game. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm just sad and mad for this game. Whatever's going to happen in the future, I'll think about it in the next couple days. So That was the early returns from Jonathan Tannewald when it came to that match yesterday. Rich, in the discussion, feels the run of his Philadelphia team is over. Bedoya should be on the roster as a veteran leadership presence, but I can't trust him as a game changer on the field. Rich is going to use Atlanta as an example. Was Ozzie Alonso expected to come on and start scoring goals left and right? The answer to that is no. He was forced into starting because of an injury to Santi Sosa. And you saw what you could get out of Ozzie Alonso. And then he gets the knee injury. But he wasn't supposed to be starting all of those matches. He was supposed to come in, and when he was picked up, the initial thought was that was a hell of a pickup because you bring in Ozzie Alonso as a closer, last 20 to 30 minutes in a game trying to lock something down. You've got Ozzie Alonso coming in, but because of injury, Ozzie had to start, and then he has the injury himself, and then he's out, and then he came back late last year, but it just didn't pan out the way that I think that either side, the team or Ozzie, would have liked when it came to recovery and all those kinds of things. So now with Bedoya, that's the question with Philadelphia. I think in this system, where Bedoya is, he can be an effective player off the bench because I think that's where he is right now in his career. Give you that 20 to 30, give you that spot start, those kinds of things. But starting and having an expectation of Alejandro Bedoya to sit there and it's like, yeah, I need you to start 28. No. That is well beyond, I think, where he is right now. And the question then is, if in this power play, and it's twofold, in this power play, if Jim Curtin misinterpreted the miscommunication as he's presenting it, if the miscommunication was not miscommunicated by Ernst Tanner and Alejandro Bedoya goes, where does he go? Because he works well in that system in Philadelphia. Does he hang it up? Who would be interested in an Alejandro Bedoya on a deal where he's not going to come in and start? Would Alejandro Bedoya be interested in a deal where he's not going to come in and start? It's got to be a system fit for Alejandro Bedoya. That's what you're staring at here, I think, with Bedoya. But the interesting power play that we're already seeing here with Jim Curtin and Ernst Tanner, that's what you're staring at here. And it will be interesting to see how this power play plays out. Whose yard is this? Is this Ernst Tanner's yard and Jim Curtin is sitting there and he's just hanging out as a part of the kennel? Or does Jim Curtin win this particular argument? And there were players that posted on the IG yesterday that are on the roster that are looking to have Bedoya stay. I think Michael Uo was one of them. There were 4 players, off the top of my head, who posted to the IG about having Bedoya stay yesterday. But who wins this power struggle? And I mean, legitimately, I think that's what this is. It's a power struggle because Jim Curtin's saying what he's saying in direct opposition to what Ernst Tanner said. Who wins this power struggle? That, to me, is the bigger question here. Jim Curtin already trying to sit there and lay the groundwork for discontent amongst fans, front office, all that kind of stuff. This is going to be an interesting battle. Whose yard is this? And I think we'll find out. Obviously, the first stages of that, I think we'll find out in the next little bit. But interesting from Jim Curtin post-match. And I got that correct because it was soccer that we're talking about, not American football. Interesting thoughts post-match from Jim Curtin. He wants to keep Alejandro Bedoya. Who wins this battle? That's the big question for me. Contributor Nile. Curtin complaining about how he should have more power as a coach in deciding who stays and goes. Welcome to MLS. Rich. Because that's the dynamic between Curtin and Tanner. It's normally a partnership. Will, thanks for the subscription as always. Morning. D. Graham, I don't know Bedoya's salary. We'll get that in a second. But I'm guessing Philly would welcome him back on a veteran minimum, but Bedoya won't take it. It will. It's CM Punk's yard. Maybe only in Chicago at Allstate Arena. All right, so Bedoya's salary. Let's go to the MLS players website, MLSplayers.org. Players Union. So if we always have, I know my connection's not private. I don't want to go back to safety. I want to go to the website. I want to go to MLS. See, when you got Norton, and I'll go ahead and say it. It's like there are times when you sit there and it's like the website that you click, and you're going, I know where I'm going. It's okay. Alejandro Bedoya's base was $780,000. That's a big number. Guaranteed compensation, $1,060,000. So he had another $280,000 in guaranteed comp on top of his base. Guaranteed compensation, $1,060,000. Base salary of $780,000. So if we went ahead and looked at it from the perspective of salaries on that roster, as I scan quickly to do things in alphabetical order. Once again, MLSplayers.org is your bookmark. All right, so here we go. Just as a comparison, Kai Wagner was on a salary, and this is guaranteed compensation, everything, $701,000. Ua, $1,940,000. Joaquin Torres, $309,800. Quinn Sullivan, $123,500. Sorensen under $100,000. Matt Real, $150,000, basically. Raffanello under $100,000. Pierre under $100,000. Odata, $113,500. Jack McGlynn, $186,500. Mbaizo, $373,000, basically $373,500. Jose Martinez, $772,500. Damian Lowe, $318,000 and a third. Basically, they signed him to a 3-year deal at $955,000. Nathan Harriel, $182,000. Glesnes over $1 million. Gazdag at $1,003,000. Flock at $294,500. Jack Elliott at $843,000. Donovan under $100,000. Craig at $127,000. Carranza at $950,000. Bueno, $185,000. Andre Blake at $894,300. In some places, that might be a steal. Bedoya, $1,060,000 in complete and total compensation. So he was, if my math is correct, 1,940, 1,038. He was the third highest paid player, meaning Alejandro Bedoya. Alejandro Bedoya was the third highest paid player on the Philadelphia Union roster. That's the kind of decision that you're looking at here for Ernst Tanner, who's already saying no. Jim Curtin, who is saying, I think there was a miscommunication. So are you willing to pay what you were paying Bedoya or less? Would Bedoya accept less to stay? Would he accept less than being the number 3 highest paid player on the Philadelphia roster next year and beyond? And I love that this is completely and totally just degraded into a discussion about the return of CM Punk. Return of Randy Orton and CM Punk back-to-back. CM Punk over the copyright. Well played by Mr. Levesque. All right, so those are the questions that we have involving Philadelphia and their future. Once again, if you guys have any questions, anything that I've left on the table that you want to discuss, there's that. So that was number one. That was Eastern Conference. We'll just take it Eastern Conference at a time. So let's do that. So that was Eastern Conference number one. Then Eastern Conference number two. You ever get a phone call and you sit there and you look at the name? Because I've got caller ID on my phone. And you're sitting there going, I have no earthly idea who you are. No clue whatsoever. Actually, tell you what, this is Opening Kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. This is Opening Kickoff. It has kind of turned into an organic one. That's your QR code, once again, those of you who are watching us this morning. So, Sagar down here, 15. Don't forget to use that at Kickoff Coffee. And thanks to everybody who's kicked off your day at Kickoff Coffee. And they, in turn, take 10% and reinvest it. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, I've rethought things. This morning, as I have been sitting here with you, I've got caller ID on my phone. Show of hands. How many of you have caller ID? That's what I thought. Okay, so that's about fair. But now that I have caller ID on my phone, because the longest time I would always get these spam calls from these weird locales, and I'm like, I'm not answering a phone call from Montana at 9:30 in the morning Eastern time. It's not happening from a Montana number anyway. And so now that I have caller ID, I'm sitting here and I'm staring at numbers that I don't know. And I'm going, okay, I have no earthly idea who you are. And I have no interest whatsoever in answering the phone. So I don't. And so obviously I don't. But then, and apparently, as I sit here and stare at, the phone calls I've gotten 4 phone calls in the last 20 minutes on my phone. And so 3 of them have come from the same person. I don't know who this person is. When it comes to these kinds of calls, how do you guys handle it? Do you guys have the guts? Because I would admit there are times where I would love to pick up the phone. I would love to pick up the phone and just say something in a foreign language, just something just random, and see what really is going on the other side of the phone line. I've wanted to sit there and just react to these kind of calls just once, just to mess with the person, so they have no earthly idea who they think they called, and then they don't call. But no, these all of these sales calls and things like that, I've always had half of a mind to pick up the call, answer in a foreign language, and just try and do something like that. But at the same time, you sit there and you're like, do I really want to do that? Do I want to waste my energy on something like that? Because I've got to keep my phone on so I can see what's going on in case there's a text or something that has to do with the show. And so it's off to my left, and I'll sit there and I'll hear the phone go off. Obviously you won't, because it's just on vibrate. But I've always had this inclination just to pick up and just start to mess with the folks on the other end of the line. Have you? Am I off on some random chase someplace, or am I thinking the right way just to mess with folks? Because if you're calling me and it's 3 times in a minute, thinking that I'm going to pick up the phone, if I look at the caller ID and I don't know you, and you call me 3 times in a minute, that's not going to change my mind. That's not going to change my mind. If you call me 3 times in a minute and I see the caller ID and I don't know you, I'm not going to pick up the phone. But I didn't know if me wanting to pick up the phone and just mess with the person on the other end of the line, however I do it, I didn't know if I was alone in that or not. Because there are plenty of times where I've sat there and I'm like, do I really want to do this? Do I want to pick up the phone? So Yeah, Abby, it's it is. Thank you for the compliment on the haircut. It is styled differently, and once again, and since we're still in round 2 of opening kickoff here on a Monday, um, for the stuff that I do for high school football, American football, so it is football, the American football, and it's not a match, it's a game. But we have a stylist and we have a makeup artist, and she does wonders. And she puts this lacquer in my hair. And that's what it is. It is absolute lacquer. I mean, literally, you could sit there, you could take a hammer to my head, and you wouldn't get past the top of the hairline. And so what she does after I come in, she'll style it and it'll go a different direction, and it'll be the way that it is. And it'll take me 3 days to wash this lacquer out of my hair. And so this is kind of an after effect of Friday night that is still there. Might be there for another day or so, complete after showers and everything. And after I've shampooed my hair, it still stays like this. So usually on Mondays, this is my Friday haircut or Friday hairstyle that has maintained itself over the weekend. I can take no credit for this whatsoever. So absolutely. And the question is for Abby, how many have a landline? We still have a landline because, full disclosure, the boss's mom sometimes still wants to call the house on the landline, and it's a generational thing where you end up with folks that they're just used to calling that landline. I mean, my mom's got a landline, and I can call the house, and it's a landline. We've got a landline here because other folks are so used to calling landlines, so we've kept it. And I think it's also part of our deal with our internet provider, where we can keep our phone number and we just keep the landline. And so when I finally figured out how to mute the phone downstairs, and everything was fine. But yeah, we've got a landline here at the house. My mom's got a landline. My mother-in-law's got a landline. So landlines, I think, still exist. So so that's kind of where things are with landlines and butt dials. I don't know if it was a butt dial though. Yeah, Michael just had a call from Villarica. I do not, nor have I ever known anyone from Villarica. I have, but they would call me. Hutch, you're probably right. I likely missed a great deal on dental floss. And Abby, this is true. If they know you, they'll leave a message or they'll just text. And I don't know if it was a butt dial or not. I legitimately don't know if it was a butt dial. Answer and tell them, there you go. Answer and tell them an unlisted number and put them on a no call, because I can block numbers too. And KFC, that's probably where I'm heading, is just blocking these folks. I have to sit there and I'll look at the grid and I'll go block, block, block. D Graham's got a full voicemail. So if you're trying to get in touch with D Graham's got a full voicemail. Text him first. Alex, morning, Alex. Alex hasn't had a landline for 12 plus years. Abby's got a landline for a few reasons. Alarms connected to it, fax machines hooked up to it, and Dad calls it first. Yeah, the third one is the one that works, is where I'm at. And so the alarm is different. Fax machine, I mean, you're one of the few people that I know that has a fax machine. Usually I just deal in PDFs. And so Abby, going on that, the fax machines come in handy. Printer, scanner, copier. Some companies will only take a fax over an email for medical purposes. I was not aware of that. I was absolutely not aware of that. So, but yeah. So if you see me looking off to, the left, then you'll see that once again my phone is going off, and it's doing something that is completely and totally out the door. And apparently in American football, David Tepper decided to fire Frank Reich this morning. Good work. Alex, thank you for reminding me, still recovering from holiday travels. Morning, Alex. Michael, not only do I not have a landline, but I've removed all phone jacks in my house. That's crazy. I didn't know going that way. I did not know that. Now, we still have all of our phone jacks. Rich still has a landline, never uses it. So, but yeah. So yeah, if you see me at any point of the show, look off to my left. It's because of the phone going off and trying to see whether or not I can sit there, and I have to answer it and go, yeah, this is me. No, not happening. No. So that's so yeah, that kind of momentary distraction will be because my cell phone's going off, and it might be somebody sending a text, might not. Okay, that was opening kickoff round 2. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Welcome to Non Sequiturs down here this morning. Don't forget to use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15 when you purchase, and thanks to our friends at Kickoff Coffee, and thanks to everybody who has been purchasing at Kickoff Coffee. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, game number 2, Eastern Conference. Game number 2 in the East, you figured, and having seen Columbus do what they do, you wondered how Orlando was going to respond in this match. And for the longest time, it was goalless. But then you end up with this goal on the board for Columbus that made it 1-0, and Orlando would have to chase from this moment forward.
Cucho on the turn. Ramirez making the run further forward. Farsi opens up, could go for goal here if he wants to. Instead he goes for Rossi. And again, excellent defending by Araujo. Good win back by Morris. They've given it away. Now he's in behind. Can he get the cross in? It's off the goalkeeper. It's in! Christian Ramirez with the instant impact off the bench. And the crew lead.
From Orlando's standpoint, watch as this play develops. Number 5 in purple, he's going to make his way higher up the pitch and cut out this play. He's tracking the play, does well to shoulder the challenge there, but now Aiden Morris comes back into the play, and it's him who wins that challenge. And now Orlando is exposed. Christian Ramirez, good moving off the box. And it's a little bit of fortune how it finds him at the back post, but it's Christian Ramirez just putting himself into a dangerous area to get rewarded. But what a challenge by Aiden Morris to open up this play, the counter press, to put Columbus back on the front foot. And they finally reward their hard work, their creativity.
And so that's Keith and Mo over at Apple TV. Thanks to Apple TV and Major League Soccer for that. So it's 1-0 at that point. Christian Ramirez, the unanticipated, I did not have a Christian Ramirez goal as the first goal in the match at the 91st minute after Schlegel picks up his second yellow and Orlando's playing with 10. So 93rd minute, Christian Ramirez makes it 1-0. And then Orlando kind of goes off the rails. Janssen with a card for dissent. Thorhalsen with another one for dissent. And, as it goes goalless, you're going into the extra 30. Christian Ramirez scores 3 minutes in, down to 10, still continuing. And then in the 118th minute, obviously, everybody from Orlando is forward and having to be more forward than forward. This ends up happening, and this was the goal. If the C-Ram goal was not the goal that shut everything down for Orlando, this one certainly did.
Galese. Smith coming in on his favoured right foot. Delivers that one in for Halsen. Instead it's Shaberko. And now there's a lot of space, and Galese is off his line. And a chance from the halfway line. And Kucha knows where that was going. Right down the middle, into the back of the net. The Columbus crew are off to the conference final.
But it starts with good defensive play first and foremost. Jaburko comes off the bench, makes a massive header, but Orlando's had to gamble. Gillespie's higher up the pitch, the goalkeeper. So you have an exposed goal, but you still, in these moments, you still have to get things right. The precision with the shot, the power on the shot, and then you got to have the audacity to take the strike on. And Cucho Hernandez is equipped with all that and some. Gets his 4th goal of the playoffs, makes it 2-0 here at Exploria Stadium, and that's job one done. Well done.
Once again, that's Keith and Mo on Apple TV. And so 2-0, that's the winner. And so your Eastern Conference final is Columbus and Cincinnati. So you end up with hell is real. You end up with hell is real for the Eastern Conference final. And it makes you wonder what the ticket prices will be for the folks who are trying to get in from the Columbus standpoint, trying to get into TQL. That's going to be one of the more interesting ticket prices to stare at this week leading into that match. What's the ticket price going to be for Hell is Real, the conference final at TQL? That's going to be interesting. And so, yes, Abby with the response. OFYO, yes. Everybody starting off with that very, very early this weekend. So, goal by Cucho, goal by C-Ram. Orlando is done. Columbus advances. And Columbus makes it into the Eastern Conference final with a 2-0 win. And Wilfred Nancy after the match. I discussed with my players before the game about the first meeting that we had when we met. We were talking about trying to create a story, trying to create memory. These players, I challenged them to add their own chapter to the club this year. And this is what they did. And because of the connection with the fans, they tried to do a lot of things on the pitch, but they tried to create a lot of emotions. And I'm really happy for that because this is really important for me. Because, yes, we want to win, but also we want to create something. Crew outshot Orlando City 20-13, nearly doubled the XG. Nazi on the team approach. I knew that this moment would come because there's been a lot of discussions during the year about how to do it. It's normal. But I knew that, again, the fact we were able to do our job with the ball and without the ball to have a competitive spirit like this. It's funny because we have a clean sheet in Orlando, one of the most difficult places to play, and we scored 2 goals. So I knew that we were able to do it, and I'm really, 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 3 reallys, happy for the guys because they deserve it. Listen, I'm a human being, so I'm really happy for that. I have emotions, so I would say I'm really proud of that. But with my staff, when we came here the first day, we said that we have values. And values is about for us to compete and to enjoy. This is what we try to put all the years in place with our players. So I'm happy, but again, the job is not finished. So that's Wilfred Nancy. So we mentioned the questions for Philadelphia. Now, the questions for Orlando going into next season as well. And once again, these are questions that have to have answers in the next couple of days. I think you're given 72 hours, if my math is correct. And Kefsi, you are absolutely correct. Aberdeen legend C-Ram, who was, you get me to discuss the Stephen Glass era there, I just get completely and totally frustrated. So, yes, absolutely true. All right, so for Orlando City, you have to keep an eye on Shaq Muhammad. This season, end of this year, you've got a lot of decisions to make. 3, 6, 9, 10, 14, at least 14, if not 15 decisions for Orlando City. Rich, you talk about being blown up, being Philadelphia. You got decisions on Felipe Martins, Junior Urso, Robin Janssen, Antonio Carlos, Wilder Cartagena, backup keeper and Adam Grinwis, Kyle Smith, Luca Petrasso, who was brought in from Toronto, Angulo, Jack Lynn is a decision that has to be made. Jack Lynn, one of the leading goal scorers in MLS Next Pro, Keep an eye on Jack Lynn. Halliday, Rivera, Duncan McGuire is a question. He is going to be getting a contract from somebody in Abdi Salim. Gillespie is next year. Pereira is next year. Thorhalson is next year. Schlegel is next year. Santos, Gonzalez, Arujo, Javier Otero. And I mean, legitimately, there are only 6 players currently under contract that are past next season. 6 players. 6. And those are 25s. So you after the 24, after the end of the calendar year in 2024, Orlando City right now has only 6 players extended 2 years left on their deals. One's the backup keeper, Ojeda, Facu Torres, Enrique, Alex Freeman, and Fabian Loyola, the 18-year-old midfielder that we saw with OCB. So there's a lot of turnover. You want to talk turnover in Philly? You could have more, and I mean an astronomical amount of turnover in Orlando City over the next couple of seasons. Literally, it's like 50-50. 3, 6, 9. So it's 9 players whose contracts end at the end of next season. And what did we say? 13 that are being discussed at the end of this year. So you've got that with Orlando as well. So Orlando facing the same kind of questions. And Rich is letting us go with college football down here. $4 billion death knell and an NIL class action appeal. And when Michael McCann is writing something, you're in trouble. Rich, by the way, as a public service, over on the OSG Sports side of things, the OSG Sports app, the College Football Show is out. It was out yesterday before some of the carousel happened. We're probably going to have to do an updated show on carousel. Welcome to carousel. This is the time for renewal, and you're getting it right now. You are getting it absolutely right now. So that's your latest. But yeah, the Carolina Panthers fired Frank Reich. Thank you, David Tepper. And you've got all of yeah. Oh, and apparently, since today's Cyber Monday, and I guess this is my other question, how many of you are taking advantage of Cyber Monday? Show of hands. Because Atlanta United, keeping in line with Cyber Monday, merch up to 65% off. So dive in now. 65% off. Rich, it won't be no sneaking. Rich posts in the Twitch pitch about Bama sneaking into the top 4. It won't be sneaking. If anybody's going to get in there, because think about it this way. We've talked about it on the college football side of things. What's best for business? Think about it. We talked about it with Major League Soccer. What's best for business? You're trying to jack up your numbers of the first year of a television contract as much messy as humanly possible. What's best for business for the college football playoff in the last year of 4? Find a way for Alabama to get in, because it's always a lightning rod. Always a lightning rod and always a talking point. Always a lightning rod and always a talking point. Yes. Alex, with Freddie in ATL. Yes, I did see this. Absolutely. The penalty kick celebration from Zay Flowers last night on Monday Night Football. And he shoots the penalty, gets it past the keeper. The Ravens go and have their celebration, and then Tirico channels Andres Cantor. Full credit to Tirico. Great catch on that, and nicely done by the Baltimore Ravens last night in their win, although not getting Gus Edwards any touchdowns didn't help me out in fantasy, and I will continue to be the worst team in my league this year, I think for the second year in a row. 2 years ago, I won the championship in fantasy football in our league, and I have stunk since. Absolutely stunk since. So, but yeah, when Michael McCann's writing an article for Sportico, there's a lot of law that's attached to it. And so that's Eastern Conference. And Western Conference, we are efforting Glenn Davis. And I figured Glenn would be resting his voice and we got to get Glenn's call on this. I hope they post them pretty quickly. But Western Conference Final, the Man U goal by Garnacho. Actually, since it's only 16 seconds, tell you what, Abby. We'll do it again.
Mikalenko, Dallo joining in from fullback. Dallo for Garnacho! Oh, wow! Oh, wow! That is one of the great goals in front of a stunned Gladys Street.
There you go. Once again, courtesy of our friends at NBC Sports, USA Network, and the Premier League. And yeah, that was average. So Garnacho with the goal there. And, great goal from Manchester United. Maddie's coming in about a half an hour or so. We'll go through everything in the Premier League, all the good, the bad, the legal, and such. We'll go over that to wrap up your show on a Monday. Like I said, we're efforting Glenn Davis. And we'll get Glenn in to discuss what's been going on with Benny Ball in Houston. And they are in a conference final. And they get to travel to Los Angeles to take on LAFC. We'll get into that. And so did Riley have a golazo? Public service. D. Graham, what did Will Riley do at Stanford? Let me know. So Houston beats Sporting 1-0. LAFC beats Seattle. And so there's your Western Conference Final. And it is going to be 3 hosting 4. 3 hosting 4 in the West. And it's going to be 1 hosting 3 in the East. All these games, 1-goal games with, and honestly, if you sit there, Cucho at the Lake made it 2, but still, all of these games, 1-goal games. So the way that it's going to lay out, it's a doubleheader on conference finals on the 2nd. 6 o'clock is Hell is Real. 9:30 is LAFC hosting Houston. And we're going to talk about LAFC for a bit. But here is how Houston beat Sporting Kansas City. And it is friend of the show, Kevin Egan. Kevin and Kendra on this one with a familiar face.
To Herrera delivers with the left foot. It's there!
His moment here and rises up, flicks this on perfectly. In traffic, oncoming. Hector Herrera puts it on a platter. What a header by Escobar. Houston Dynamo going up in front of their fans, in front of the supporters. 1-0 lead at home.
He's not a big goal scorer, but he's a scorer of big goals. Known as Playoff Franco during his time with Atlanta United. It's Escobar with the breakthrough here in the Western Conference.
And I know that a lot of folks are going to be talking about the handball. And Peter Vermes, who blessed us, Morning Four Card. Peter Vermes blessed us again with another gift for the ages that is a sequel to the previous one. Peter Vermes, unequivocal, saying that Sporting deserved a PK and a man advantage when Sviatchenko appeared to handle Shallowy's goal-bound follow-up shot in the 41st minute. No doubt in my mind it's a handball. Then Vermes said, actually, it's a handball, then it's a red card because it's stopping a goal-scoring situation, but unfortunately they didn't call it. All right, so let's look at it, and I'm watching it. So, through ball, player goes down. Sviatchenko blocks the ball, and it's cleared away. So, Sviatchenko's arm is down by his side. It's not extended. From looking at these angles, Sviatchenko Sviatchenko is like this. It's not extended. His arm is not out. So he is like this. If I'm interpreting laws of the game correctly, and I know that when Bart is on Wednesday, we'll probably have a talking point. So if Sviatchenko, if his arms are down by his side, and they're like this, I mean, Sviatchenko's left arm is not out. It's not extended from his body. He makes a point. I mean, like, and I might have an unpopular opinion here. It wouldn't be the first time. So I'm going to watch it again. Through ball, great through ball into the D. Defender slides, blocked, shot, follow. Sviatchenko blocks it from the near post, and it's cleared away. So, shot through the defender. Sviatchenko's arm is like this. Sviatchenko's arm is down. The hands are away from the body, but I thought it was the arms. And I mean, and the four-card, wouldn't be the first time. So, but if his elbow, like I said, if his arm is like, if his arms are down, and I'm not even going to focus on the right arm anymore. But if his left arm, is down, like I said, this is my opinion, and I know that we can argue about this, and we probably will between now and Wednesday. Perfectly fine. But as I'm looking at it, tucks in his elbow, and naturally when you tuck in your elbow, your hand's going to be extended, but arms are down by the side. I'll look at it a third time. Four card says handball in a red. Third time, blocked, shot, Sviatchenko standing at the near post, and cleared. Hands are to the side and up a little bit on the left. That's the quote. So Sviatchenko is drawing his hands back to be close to his body. He's got the near post, and he tucks his left arm in, and you see the elbow. I don't know how Sviatchenko actually got his left arm to do what it did from the elbow out, but anyway, okay. Okay, so Vermes, it's not a hard decision to make when you have replay. When a player kind of picks his arms up to make himself a little bit bigger, even if his hands are out to the side, it doesn't matter. He saves the ball with his hand. Well, he didn't, but he didn't save it with his hand. He saved it right here. Normally speaking, a player will put his hands behind his back. His hands are to the side and up a little bit on the left. The arms are in a natural position. So how is this not a natural position? Sviatchenko, I mean, yes, his elbows are tucked, but left arm being what it is that not a natural position? Like I said, I'm just putting this out here. This is how I'm looking at it. I know that we are having a street fight this morning, which is perfectly fine. Johnny Russell, I'm not going to sit and say that's why we lost the game. It's not. But in games as tight as this and in occasions like this, I don't understand why referees aren't 100% sure. He's saying it hits his chest. I mean, technically it hit him kind of like right here, but clearly doesn't, so I don't know why you're leaving it to VAR. Ben Olsen, naturally he's going to say this. I haven't seen it. I don't care. Not really sure what a handball is anymore. It was by his side, I'm assuming. And they said it was a part of his body. I'm not sure. It was probably one of those they could call or not. We got the, I guess, benefit of the doubt, end quote. Sporting started the year winless with their first 10, losing 7. Then we always get the zombie Sporting team. You come up with those summer acquisitions, and then you come just sprinting from the bottom, and you make your way into the playoffs. Got the number 8 seed on decision day. Johnny Russell, I know they're going to be back behind us next year. We just have to show what we've shown up until this point, especially after those first 10 games. The fight back we've shown, some of the play we've shown, some of the games that we've put on, especially at home, we have to do that all next year. Then it has to be from the very start. We can't be playing catch-up. That's 2 seasons in a row now that we've left ourselves too much to do. Tim Melia, we showed a tremendous amount of grit. We showed a tremendous amount of belief in one another from our staff to players and ownership. I don't want this to result to take away from what we accomplished this year. We were able to overcome such a massive hole, and that's true. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. We should, when we're able to kind of decompress and look back on that, that's something we should be proud of. All right, Sporting Kansas City's notions now, their ideas. What is Sporting having to go through coming up? What decisions are they going to make? Let's see if I spelled Sporting Kansas City correctly. Apparently I didn't. Sporting Kansas City. Nope. Come on now. Sporting. Maybe I have to do it all the way out. There we go. I have to spell it all the way out. All right, so Sporting Kansas City, 31 in the squad. Decisions that have to be made by Sporting by the end of the year or in the next 72 hours. Johnny Russell, out of contract. Espinoza, Zusi, who's 37. Espinoza and Zusi are both 37, by the way. Felipe, backup keeper. Remy Voltaire, Cameron Duke, who we saw with Sporting 2. Courtney Ford, Castellanos, Willie Agata, Jake Davis, Danny Flores, Afrifa, and Chris Rendolph. So not a lot of big names, but you've got Duke, Voltaire, Felipe, Zusi, Espinosa, and Russell. So there's not a lot of names, but there's some big names here. There's like 6 that you've got to sit there and look at and figure out what you want to do with Sporting Kansas City and figure out what you're staring at. So, okay, so I will post the MLS link. Abby says she hasn't watched it yet. So as a public service, there's the link to the highlights. So 4-card, once again, out of the blocks. 4-card says that it's handball and a red. It's like 2 minutes in. You're wrong. Abby, being medical, if arms down at your side, it becomes a part of your body. Arms are supposed to be in the natural position. Abby says if he extends his arms out and it hits the hand, then yes, handball. But if it hit the arm near the underarm and the arm is tucked, part of the body. And that's what it looked like to me. It looked like it hit him right here. Didn't hit him in the hand, didn't hit him from the elbow down. Yes, and Hutch, we shouldn't let the quest for perfection become the enemy of good enough, unless we're talking about VAR. So yes, Hutch is fired up. So that's the link to the play. The play itself has been isolated down the storyline. So 41, it's a 41-second video clip. So by the way, we could watch it 3 times and sit there and go, yes, no. So like I said, I'm looking at arms like this. Hits him here, doesn't hit him from the elbow down. And it looked like maybe he tucked his elbow in a little bit. And of course, when you're toggling video and you can sit there and toggle back and forth and go, yep, nope. So like I said, for me, looked like natural position, arm down by the side, like I said, but that's the beauty of what we do here. It wasn't called last night, and you end up with a win for Benny Ball. And for those of us who voted for him or would have liked to have voted for him, and you get to rock and roll from there. So that's the idea. Anyway, so all right, 3 down, 1 to go, and it is Seattle and Los Angeles. Seattle and LA was the late night game, and this is, and once again, I know that you're dealing with a new TV contract. I know that you're dealing with a new TV partner. I know you are. But the kick last night, I'm trying to remember how late was it? I mean, it was pretty blanking late. Was supposed to be a 9:30 kick, I believe. I think it was supposed to be a 9:30 kick, and it ended up being like 9:55. But once again, you're dealing with your new partners and new pregame shows and all that kind of stuff. And Maxime Crépeau came up big a couple of times. So did Stephen Fry, but we'll go over the stats in this one coming up in a little bit, because I imagine that some of you went to bed and didn't watch this one on Apple TV. But once again, one goal. One goal was all the difference, and it happened early, and it was Denny Bouanga. And here is the call once again off our friends from Apple TV. It's Jake and TT on the call, and it was a very, very late night on Apple TV, courtesy of them and Major League Soccer.
Depends on what they get from Rui Diaz come next season. Oh, what a ball that is.
It's left by Oliveira. Here is Bouanga. Finally into space. Bouanga is forward! Oh, Denis Bouanga! All he needs is one chance, and the Golden Boot winner opens the scoring in the conference semifinal.
To turn this game on its head, the last thing Seattle wanted is Denis Bouanga in open space.
And there you go. You got Denny Bouanga in open space, and that's what happened. Going over the numbers last night, and there's some things that I'll discuss here about LAFC. Looking at our statistics, provided I can find them. XG 1.25 to 0.39 for Seattle. Ball possession, 69% of the day was Seattle's. But once again, if you've got a 1-0 lead early on, then you're not going to, after the 30th minute, you're not really going to be interested. 16 shots to 7, 8 shots on target to 2, 4 blocks for Seattle, 10 corners on the night. 32 fouls called by Ted Unkel. And, Ted Unkel could certainly be a talking point in this one, too. 32 fouls, 16 on each side, 6 yellows, 3 on each side, 30 free kicks, 15 on each side, 19 throw-ins to 12, 9 goal kicks for LAFC compared to 6 for Seattle. 2 big chances to 1, both of them missed, one of them hitting the woodwork. And shots outside the box, 10 to 2, shots inside, 6 to 5. Passing, 86%. Now, here's the numbers last night for LAFC. Now that I'm staring at it, 86% passing. And then once again, this is stilted because, 69% to 31% possession. But LAFC's numbers. So on 579 passes last night, Seattle completed 86% of their passes. Last night, LAFC was 181 of 263, 69%. Nice. 19 long balls compared to 33 for Seattle. 2 of 7 on crosses on 181 accurate passes out of 263 attempts. 7 crosses, 7 for 38 for Seattle in crosses. They won 67 of the 117 duels, so 6 out of 11, so it's like 55-45. They won 1 more aerial, 19-18. 21 tackles to 16, Seattle 10 picks to 9, 38 clearances for LAFC. 38 clearances for LAFC. Crazy. So, LAFC last night, and Crépeau punched a 9.1, as he should have. Started Hollingshead, Murillo, Chiellini, and Palacios. Why you didn't run at Chiellini all night long, I don't know why. Chiellini ended up with a yellow at one point, and then he was decided that he wanted to sit down because he was tired, and then he got removed. But I don't know why you didn't run at Chiellini all night long. Oliveira, 6.2. Vela, a 6.8. We're going to talk about Carlos Vela here in a second. Denny Bouanga had a 6.7 with the goal. Ilya, a 7. Timothy Tillman had an 8. But I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about LAFC. But frankly, the Steve Cherundolo LAFC is not the Bob Bradley LAFC. You had that run of form with LAFC where Steve Cherundolo, for months, said that their dip in form was because of Leagues Cup or CONCACAF Nations League, CCL. We had a dip in form because of our run in CONCACAF Champions League. No, you didn't. You don't have a run of form that goes 3 months after losing in CONCACAF Champions League. That doesn't work. And Carlos Vela seems to be spending more time trying to get cards drawn against him and complaining when they're not than actually perhaps doing things these days. And the idea of, wagging fingers and doing the card thing, I've just become, Carlos Vela, all he seems to do is complain and go down and try to draw fouls and cards. And with someone like Ted Uncle, I'm sure that, you get a little bit of that influence. You could, Carlos went down. I have to call the whistle. Something Jordan rules. But, it's to see this group of LAFC. I mean, if they didn't have Denny Bouanga and Christian Oliveira, I wonder where they would be. And they certainly wouldn't be where they are now, I don't think. But all Carlos Vela seems to want to do these days is try to draw fouls, draw cards. He's trying to use his cunning and wile to try and do things to benefit his club. It's no longer it's more that than it is using his ability or what there is of it. So it's just to see this version of LAFC seem to be just a bunch of complaining folks who want to go down and try to draw fouls and things like that instead of actually playing. When you have a moment where you have an error and then you're clinical and you have a player like Denny Bouanga, who I don't imagine, if the price is right for Denny Bouanga, I do not anticipate Denny Bouanga hanging around, but I do anticipate LAFC getting a nice little profit for their investments. So it will end up being a challenge for LAFC, but LAFC does not impress me. Yeah, Vela's just a candle in the wind these days, according to Hutch. And it's just like, Carlos Vela, you don't impress me. I feel like Shania Twain. You don't impress me much. So questions for Seattle in the next little bit. Fry, double R. And then they've got let's see. I got to count the numbers here. Contracts at the end of this calendar year, 3, 6, 9, 12, 14 plus probably Stephen Fry. So 14 plus. Rusnak, Ladero, Montero, JP, João Paulo, Eber, Kellen Rowe, Arriaga, Stephen Cleveland, Paul Rothrock, who was doing well with Tacoma Defiance this past year. So that will be that'll be to see where Rothrock's path is. That will be interesting for me. Josh Atencio, Jackson Reagan, Dylan Tevis, who is injured, backup keeper and Jacob Castro, Abdoulaye Sissoko. So there's a lot of names here for Seattle that they've got to figure out. We already know that there are some that will not be back. Nico out. We know that's going to happen. And there might be a team here on the East Coast that might be interested in having a Nico Ladero type individual as a part of the roster. Just saying. So, so there's a lot of questions for Seattle. Next handful of next handful of days, you've got 4 teams that lost this weekend who have at least a dozen decisions that have to be made. So it will be intriguing to see what these questions are and what these decisions are as they're going to be made, involving a lot of big name players. A lot of big name players that are a part of things. So it will be an intriguing discussion, and there might be some interesting names that are out there that will be a part of the discussion. So we're now down to the Final Four. Like I said, hopefully we can get Glenn Davis on this week and we can discuss things and get it all squared away. I'm aiming to see if we can get him on tomorrow. Figured we'd give his voice a rest today and get him on in the 10 o'clock hour tomorrow. Give him the chance to have a cup of coffee, maybe have a cup of coffee with us. As it all breaks down, we can discuss Benny Ball and the matchup against LAFC. And I know that BMO is a tough environment. I know it is. But getting the breakdown from Glenn about Houston and what it can be like for them in that environment. Is it as impenetrable as it used to be? Early numbers say no. Early Christmas appetizers. FC Cincinnati is a plus 112 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal for Hell is Real, the conference final. 90-minute draw and Columbus are both at about a plus 240. I'll take that number. Late game, LAFC, a minus 159 at home. 90-minute draw is a plus 319. Houston is a plus 394. Shoot, I'll take the 90-minute draw there. I'll take the 90-minute draw. So, interesting numbers, and we'll keep an eye on the juice boxes, obviously, this week and see how things change and see how things drift away. Getting into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and what to watch on TV. Monday Night Football's Fulham and Wolves at 3 o'clock. That's on USA Network and on Universo. Deportes and on the Plus, Girona and Athletic Club at 3 o'clock. Paramount Plus is they have 6 matches in the Asian Champions League. 2 that are late in the second half. 2 more at 11 o'clock. 2 more at 1 o'clock. Serie A, 12:30 and 2:45. Argentine Primera, they've got doubleheader at 5, doubleheader at 7:30, and the Brasileiro at 7 o'clock. It is Goiás and Cruzeiro. If you do not have the opportunity to watch things on TIC, if you don't have the chance to watch on CDO, for the fans, Nuestra Tele, all the BNs, you can go to Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps them out, helps the show out, helps the network out, and helps you out because you really can watch some truly far-flung locales when it comes to what you can watch and where you can watch it. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo this morning as we get ready for Prem and Proper, and we'll get into what's going on, what happened this past weekend in the Prem, as Jason says. Here's your gossip. Chelsea set to make Napoli's Victor Osimhen their prime attacking target in January, open to a move to Stamford Bridge. Newcastle closely monitoring in the progress of Atletico Madrid's 23-year-old Brazilian winger Samuel Lindo. Juve keen to sign a midfielder in January. 3 Premier League players on their short list. Arsenal's Thomas Partey, Manchester City's Calvin Phillips, and Tottenham's Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Juve will aim to convince 23-year-old England winger Jadon Sancho to join them on loan from Manchester United in January. That's from Fichajes. Manchester City interested in 25-year-old Brazilian midfielder Douglas Luiz, who they sold to Villa in 2019, as well as Ruben Neves. Manchester City want to sign Boca Junior fullback Valentin Barco before loaning him to Leicester City. Valentin Barco, if you have not seen El Barco Rojo, it's a treat. And right now, I think the release clause might be like $12 million or something like that. If Atlanta United had any way of getting Valentin Barco, oh my Lord. If you haven't seen him, if you haven't seen Valentin Barco play, release clause right now of $10 million. Release clause of $10 million for Valentin Barco. Keep an eye on that man. The rest of gossip, rumor, and innuendo before Maddie joins us for Prem and Proper. Saudi side Al Ettifaq are leading the chase to sign David De Gea in January. Once again, this is from the 3-letter paper, so take the information at your own peril. Remember, David De Gea is also being courted by his buddy David Beckham. So you could see David De Gea at Messi and Friends next year. West Ham lurking on a deal to sign Porto's Nigerian left-back Zaidu Sanusi in January. Spurs monitoring the progress of Southampton's keeper Gavin Bazunu. Liverpool have to pay Benfica an extra £8.5 million for Darwin Nunez after he made his 60th appearance for the club against Manchester City on Saturday. Everton have agreed to a deal to sign Linfield's 16-year-old Northern Ireland youth forward Braden Graham. Remember, he can't be a part of things until he's 18. Leicester and Preston North End keen on a January loan move for Liverpool's U21 defender Gerald Kwanzaa. West Ham winger Said Ben Rama is attracting interest from Saudi Arabian clubs. Chelsea's Ian Matson could be allowed to leave on loan in January if the Netherlands U21 signs a new long-term contract. Crystal Palace and Fulham have inquired about the availability of Ajax's 28-year-old English striker Chuba Akpom, because Akpom has done well in the championship, and it would be an interesting talent to pull if you could get your way and bring Chuba Akpom. Middlesbrough, I think, was the last stop for Chuba Akpom, and trying to drag him in. All right, so it is, I kind of split the difference. We're kind of here in the last half hour of the show. Not quite 10:30, not quite 10:35. So I kind of split the difference. And so what I wanted to do for the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the show is bring Prem and Proper forward a little bit and kind of see here in the winter months, perhaps have Prem and Proper the review here on Mondays to get us through the day, and we can kind of figure out what's going on as we get ready for Monday Night Football. So that means that we bring in Maddie, and we get Maddie to discuss things, and so here's Maddie to discuss things. Strange how that works.
I know, it's crazy. I just am here, always.
Yes, it is wacky how the technology works. And so as I try and find, because I've got like 98 tabs that are currently open, I'm trying to find, there it is. All right, so wax poetic for a couple of minutes, or just, maybe a minute or two, while I promote the fact that you are on here to discuss Prem and Proper. So from 30,000 feet, what are some of your takeaways from the weekend in the Premier League?
Well, first of all, thank goodness that Newcastle finally got a win. I'm very happy with that, and it was a good win as well.
You and Alex Piscine, you're both the Newcastleians here.
I'm very happy, very content. It was one of those things where I went into it and I was kind of unsure, and then obviously, it was said that Almiron was going to be back, Trippier was going to be back as well. Trippier, excuse me. But it was like hearing that they were going to be back. I was like, okay, you know what? It's going to work out. Everything's going to be great. So we went into the game, and Isaac as well. He made a huge difference in the game. And then, so we got that first goal, then they tied it. And then we got another goal. We had it up, and then obviously the second yellow for Chelsea, giving them the red card in the game. So I think that helped us a little bit. Definitely. It always helps when you're playing, 11 to 10, but I don't know. I thought it was a good, it was a good comeback in match after the international break. And I'm happy with how it went. I'm happy that we won. That's first and foremost, but I'm happy with the way we looked. I think there's definitely some things that need to be touched up, and it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens against Man United this weekend. I'm a little nervous for that game though, because if y'all watch that one goal, I've been watching it on a loop like all morning. It is so good.
So you mean this goal?
Mikolenko, Dalot joining in from fullback. Dalot for Garnacho! Oh wow! Oh wow! That is one of streak.
That goal.
Oh yeah, that goal. He did the little Ronaldo thing too at the end. I was like, it's perfect.
Come on. I mean, look. Yeah, it's a fantastic goal. I get it. But why you want to copy CR38? Why you want to do that?
That is true.
Come up with your own. You did your own stunner shocker. Come up with your own celebration, sir. Once again, thanks to our friends at NBC Sports Soccer and the Premier League for that. Yeah, Peter Drury, love that call. And I couldn't quite find the long version in time.
Oh yeah.
But I figured the short version would be just as good. Going around the league, I think probably the biggest story outside of Garnacho with an amazing bicycle kick, the display at Everton at Goodison Park for their match, and in that match where you basically had everyone in the stands holding up a pink piece of paper or purple piece of paper, or very pink purpley, or not quite magenta, but a little darker shade, that had the Premier League lion and the word corrupt underneath. Everyone in the stands at Goodison Park, I mean, it was storming. It was just storming mass of humanity who's angry at the Premier League over the 10-point deduction for violating FFP. So everyone in the lower bowl that anybody could be seen, you had tifos and the whole thing, but everybody's holding up pink placards and purple placards going corrupt. And it's a rallying cry for Sean Dyche and Everton after this weekend. First time that they got to see Everton play after the 10-point deduction.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know, talking to a friend of mine who is an Everton fan, I mean, I'm looking up the things right now for it as well. But I mean, like, you know, they got the 10-point deduction. I mean, and he told me that, like, it was kind of like, we would be in this area as well. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, they kind of didn't do the right thing. You got to get punished a little bit, and it kind of sucks. But yeah, I don't know. And then, I mean, it was to Man United of all people as well. So obviously, we saw that beautiful, goal there as well against Everton. But I don't know. I think, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't looked too much into that discussion yet. I need to expand my knowledge on that as well.
Well, with Everton, and we went into it in depth, and basically it has to do with reported losses that are well above and beyond 3 years of acceptable losses that are laid out by FFP. I think the number is like 110, and it was 110 a year, and Everton ends up at like 700. And that's a bit much. And so Everton went to the Premier League and was like, look, things changed because of COVID. Player values changed because of COVID. We're building a new stadium and interest rates and all these other kinds of things. But it was tied to a Russian oligarch. And so those who are in the Twitch pitch, who are Evertonian fans, are just completely and totally fired up and mad at the Premier League now. And they basically are telling the Premier League as an entity to go blank off. Considering the 10-point deduction that's there. But, right now you lose and you end up with mad fans. You've got to fight now that you're in the relegation zone because of the 10-point penalty. And it's going to be one of the biggest challenges that they will have seen as a club. I mean, they've been hanging around and saving themselves. But now that the 10-point deduction is there following the breach of the profitability and sustainability rules, you're 5 points from safety after match week 13. And Burnley's at 4 points as well, but they're at minus 22 in goal difference. They've only won once in their first 13. Sheffield United plays Burnley, and I think a relegation 6-pointer next week. And you and Drew will be talking about that on Friday when Prem and Proper the preview is released. But Everton, I think, is right now at a world of hurt at 4-2-7, 5 points from safety after the 1/3 point.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what also sucks about it too is, I mean, if I was an Everton fan, I'd be a little upset as well because, I think before the 10-point deduction, they were doing very well. They were in, I want to say, the middle board of the Premier League standings. They were right there. And then, with that 10-point deduction, brought them down. And then obviously with the loss against Man United, it doesn't really help their case. So, they got to kind of dig themselves out of this hole going into these next couple of matches. So it'll definitely be interesting to watch. I'm trying to look and see who they play next. I believe it is Nottingham Forest at 12:30 on Saturday, so that'll be fun to watch. I believe that is at Nottingham Forest. So that is an away game for them. So, I mean, they'll have to show up. They'll have to show up for that game. They'll have to, put everything they have toward it to try and secure a win.
Yeah, and so we'll keep an eye on that going forward. D. Graham says not breaking the rules is why David Raya is on loan to Arsenal. And, right now it's probably, the 27 million, I think the 27 million pound effort to sign him would definitely help out Brentford, and then they can reinvest it doing other things. But to D. Graham's point, it's going to be that's what sets, I guess, Brentford apart and being mid-table, and then going the other way and trying to figure out what you're looking at with Everton. Sorry, I'm trying to do a little traffic. Glenn Davis, sorry. Glenn, we were talking about Glenn Davis in hour number 1. So I'm trying to do a little housekeeping at the same time I'm trying to talk to you. Yeah, so literally he's like he just DM'd me. So but no, so it's been other stuff. But Luton Town actually got a win too. And as a patron saint of the little guy, I like it when Luton Town got the win at home. And if I could figure out where we are here. Yeah, Luton Town gets the win over Crystal Palace 2-1. I thought that was really interesting as well. The little guy gets one done at home at Kenilworth Road.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I always am a person where I don't have a stake in the fight in like a team that I root for. I always root for the underdog. I think I don't know, you like the little underdog story, and especially against a team like Crystal Palace, and especially at home to do in front of your home fans. That's awesome. And especially in the Premier League, anything can happen. I mean, we've seen it all in probably the past 13 weeks. Anything can happen. It's soccer. It changes like a freaking snap. But I was trying to do a little sound thing and I missed my fingers. That was kind of rough for me. But anyway, it's fine. Everyone who was watching saw that. That was embarrassing, but it's fine. I mean, but yeah, I think it's awesome, and I think it's great. I was unfortunately unable to watch most of the matchups, other than just highlights, because I was sidelining Kennesaw State women's basketball that day. But I caught up a little bit on the highlights and all of that stuff. So I'm trying to this morning I was trying to revamp on everything that happened, and I was like, okay, what's going on? What's going on?
Abby has given you the okie doke for a Monday. It's a Monday, no worries.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I have my coffee. That was the only thing I had going for this morning. And I had class too, we're rolling.
Yeah. And so for those that may not know the full story, and I guess I'm going to go Paul Harvey here. Maddie is helping us out in her senior year at Kennesaw State. And so she has decided to jump in full bore even before her time with us was supposed to start after the first of the year. So she's like, nope, ready to go now. And so that's why you're seeing Maddie do Soccer's in Session. And that's why you're having Maddie to help us out with her comments with Bart. And no, she probably doesn't even know who Paul Harvey is, Abby. It's that would be part of the Google search machine today, is trying to figure out, about Paul Harvey. Now we know the rest of the story. So that's your Google search for today for those of you of a certain demographic. So Maddie is helping us out with her time at Kennesaw State winding down. So she's hanging out with us here, doing basically anything and everything. And she has decided to try to pursue her love and interest in sports and in soccer by hanging out with us here at SDH for quite some time. So we'll see how long you survive is going through all of your paces. And so literally it's like, hey, you want to come on and do this? Yes, sure, absolutely. You want to come on and do this? Sure, absolutely. So that's what Maddie is up to in hanging out with us here at SDH. So before we keep going, what have you thought about your time so far in the sprint that you've been here a part of things?
It's been fun. I've loved it. I'm a person where I don't like to kind of be not doing anything. I am a person where I hate having time not doing stuff. I like being busy. I like doing stuff. I also love the fast pace that is sports. So, I mean, I'll go from Kennesaw State doing stuff for them, like sidelining or play-by-play and color with them. And then I'm immediately they're like, oh, you want to come on and, work this game? And I'm like, yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm like, get me in there, let's go. So I love it. It's been a lot of fun getting to kind of research and do all that stuff, especially with Soccer's in Session, getting to kind of look at some more of the schools that people maybe don't really know. I'll say it. I've said it before, but I mean, the Oglethorpe game, that whole SAA conference final was so fun. I loved being a part of that, and I loved getting just to talk to all all the coaches from those D1, D2, D3 schools going into it as well. So it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it a lot. I'm excited for the spring, getting to kind of jump a lot more into all of that stuff too. But yeah, I wanted to get my foot in the door. I wanted to get started because I was ready to go. And plus, I love soccer, so I was like, it works for me in any way. Oh, my major. I'm a sports management major.
Which means what, basically, these days?
So the sports management, it's weird for in KSU, it's a lot more of the behind the scenes stuff for sports. So it's a lot more of like the marketing, the facility management, the ticket sales, revenues, finance, sports agents, all of that stuff. But with KSU, how they kind of branch it out is you kind of get to do a mix of everything with it. So I was able to actually take a sports broadcasting class with, I don't know if any of y'all know him, but his name is Will Edmonds. He was a CNN sports writer. He does a lot of stuff in Atlanta as well. He's great. If y'all get the chance to check him out, he's awesome. He's great. He really is. He really kind of found my love for sports broadcasting and made me realize this is what I wanted to do. And so that happened. And then I found KSU Owl Network, which is our little broadcast thing here at KSU. And I started doing that. And then I started getting some on-air opportunities with them. And then I am now here because it fell into my lap a little bit because I was doing a call for Kennesaw State women's soccer. It was my first ever ESPN call, and it was with Jason. And so it kind of worked very well. It was very convenient and it worked so well. And I was also excited to hear that y'all have already seen my stuff online too. And I was like, oh my gosh. That when y'all told me that, I was like, there's no way. I was like, y'all are lying to me. And no, it was true. Y'all saw my stuff and I was like, ah.
Yeah. No, we don't. We do not fabricate. We don't fabricate numbers around here. That doesn't play. Other results from the weekend. Manchester City. Actually, let's run through them all and see if anything sticks in your brain. Villa beat Spurs 2-1, and for Spurs fans, it's mass panic and hysteria. I think it's 3 losses on the spin, and everybody's freaking out. When Jarrett comes back, I want to discuss with Jarrett about Ange Ball, because not a lot of folks are quite, completely comprehending what it means. Mm-hmm. That he's going to do his thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't matter if they're up 3 or down 3, they're still going to do their thing. And it's not going to change. He's not going to change his philosophy just because the results are either for you or against you, because what's better than having a 2-goal lead, a 3-goal lead? Mm-hmm. And, it's like seeing a team play spread offense, and that's just who they are. They're going to be, first down, first quarter, they're running the spread. In fourth quarter, if they're chasing a game, they're still in the spread. If they're leading, they're still running spread unless there's like 5 minutes left and they're running out the clock.
Which I prefer. I think, I don't know, because like things can happen, like you could be ahead and then like lose the lead and then you don't try. I think if anything, you're still pushing forward. I understand, saving players and bringing them off and, letting them rest when you guys are up a certain lead. But I mean, unless it's like 5 more, I'm a firm believer in like, why would you take somebody off if they're putting you ahead? Which I agree.
Mm-hmm. Manchester City. We talked about Manchester United and Everton, and so Manchester United gets the win 3-0. I don't know if anybody's heard this.
Dallo joining in from fullback. Dallo for Garnacho. Oh wow! Oh wow! That is one of the great goals in front of a stunned Gladys Street.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's heard that happened in the match. It was just one of those things that just happened for Garnacho.
It's a normal goal. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Casual bicycle kick. It's whatever.
Yeah. So the Garnacho goal, once again, courtesy of our friends at NBC Sports Soccer and the Premier League. So big win there, 3 on the board. Manchester City, Liverpool, a 1-1 draw. West Ham, 2-1 winners at Burnley. Luton Town, we talked about Luton Town over Crystal Palace. Newcastle, 4-1 over Chelsea. You got to talk about that one. Brighton and Nottingham Forest. And you had your fair bit of chaos with this one, too. It was a 3-2 game. And after the match was over, folks decided that they were not going to shake hands. So you had the two coaches, DeZerbi and Steve Cooper, and they there was going to be no shaking of hands afterward. Literally, just blows right past. Let me see if I can find the quote here. DeZerbi admitted Brighton reacted like we'd won the Champions League as they ran across the pitch to celebrate with away supporters after their first win in 7 Premier League matches, despite Lewis Dunk's red card. In the last half hour, including 10 added minutes, Forrest pulled a goal back through Gibbs White and a penalty, survived a potential red card for Murillo, and then a late point-blank header saved by Bart Verbruggen. DeZerbi forgot to shake Steve Cooper's hand as the emotion of the comeback understandably took over. I want to explain my celebration. It wasn't disrespectful for the opponent. We are suffering a lot, losing 10 players to injury. We lost 2 players in the first half. We lost 2 substitutions in the first half, suffered a red card, lost 2 points in the last game with Sheffield United, lost 2 points against Fulham. The last win in the Premier League for us was at the end of September. We're suffering a lot. It's one of the toughest moments, not just in the Premier League, but in my career. For me, it was a big, big celebration. And for it, we celebrate like the final in Champions League or winning the Premier League. So it wasn't a slight, but he forgot. He forgot.
He just forgot. Okay. It happens. I forget to I forget to do things too. Sometimes it happens. In the heat of the moment, I don't I don't know. I mean, I understand where he's coming from in the essence of like how big it is to like come down to like have all those, advantages. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like you're playing a game of soccer and you just like played it. But it's also the thing too. It's not a championship game. It's a regular season game. And also too, like I'm like, it's just respect for me. I feel like even if they're you have like maybe a second or two to go over to the head coach and just shake the hands, say congratulations, you played a great game, and then go on and celebrate. I just think there's a respect there, and I understand it, but to me, it just seems like it's a whole lot of excuses, and it's just like, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I get, I do understand, but also considering that this is Brighton in the first time that they're in European competition ever, and that they were going to be going through a whole lot of stuff, and so the fact that I didn't realize it was as bad as DeZerbi had put it.
I didn't either.
And considering that DeZerbi says he already hates 80% of the referees in England anyway, and got into trouble for saying that publicly. He's like, I don't like 80% of the refs in England. I don't. Now, and this is something I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. Bournemouth and Sheffield United, bottom of the table. Bournemouth wins 3-1. Big 3 points for Bill Foley and Andoni Iraola. They get a 3-1 win. So now apparently, after Bournemouth beat Newcastle, then they beat Sheffield United. Andoni Iraola says the positive quote. But now it is to the point where the Sheffield United fans were booed off at the Sheffield United fans were booed off at the interval, and fans vented their frustration again 6 minutes after the restart when Bournemouth added a third. And so now they're just yelling and they're mad. And frankly, I'm wondering why Paul Heckingbottom is still employed, but I think I know the answer, because they would have to try and find a replacement. And I don't know if they can afford to pay the replacement.
Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, Sheffield United, all right, let me ask you this. Coming into this season, who did you think was going to be relegated?
Relegated?
Yeah, who did you think was going to be relegated when the season started? I figured it was going to be Luton. I figured it was going to be Sheffield United, but then I also figured it was going to be some mix of a couple of teams, Bournemouth, Burnley, Everton. I thought that was going to be the mix. What's that? Is the tea ready?
I don't know what that was.
That was weird.
I don't know. Was that on my end?
I don't know, but still, it sounded like the tea was ready.
It did. Oh my gosh, someone's having a little team. That was weird.
Very.
Anyway.
But no, I figured it was going to be 3 teams for that final one spot. I figured Luton Town was going to be a part of the discussion. I thought that Sheffield United was going to be a part of the discussion. I figured it was going to be some combination of like Burnley, Wolves, Everton, something like that, battling for that third spot. What did you think going into this season? And
I
are your predictions coming true?
I always thought, Bournemouth and Wolves, they're always like kind of in that like bottom tier area, but like they always manage to kind of like scrape by just a tad. Like near the end, they're always there and it's fine. I thought it would probably have been Luton or Sheffield United. Those were the two that I was thinking. Just because of like how they've been playing and everything else. Maybe even Everton too, because they had that moment obviously last season as well. I mean, looking at the leaderboard now, I'm trying to pull it up because my iPad's being weird. I mean, you got Burnley and then Everton at the bottom, and then Sheffield United as well at the bottom. I mean, it's pretty much shaping out how I thought. And then obviously too, Everton fans are, a little upset right now because of the 10-point deduction.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they would have been, closer up a little bit later on if that weren't the case. But obviously, with the way things are now, they're kind of stuck in that point to be relegated, and that's not good. It's kind of shaping out to how I thought it would be. I mean, pretty much the teams that are kind of in the last couple of spots, I kind of figured they would be. So it's not shocking to me. Everton is the only one that I would say is a bit, but that's also because of the 10-point deduction.
Yeah. All right. And so tonight for them, but this afternoon for us, we have the final match of the match week. And my first question is, are you going to watch it, or do you actually have stuff to do?
So I'm going to watch it. I do have a production call with all of our stuff. We have a weekly review session where we go over our stuff for the week with my supervisor. So that will be at 3:30. So I'll be able to catch a little bit of it, but I'm going to have it on in the background. So it'll be in the background. I'll be like kind of like looking in and like, like side eyeing it as it goes. And it'll be like, Maddie, why aren't you paying attention? I'm like, I am. I promise. I'm just watching soccer.
Fulham's at 12 points right now. They're in 15th. Wolves pretty much stunning a lot of folks early on. They are in 12th at 15 points. So 3 points separating these clubs right now. And so the matchup itself may not be the sexiest one on the board, but it does give us a live event on a Monday afternoon. From other really quick stories, where was that other story that I saw? Oh, yeah. It appears that Mauricio Pochettino may threaten to cancel Chelsea's day off after the defeat by Newcastle.
I did read that.
He said conceding 4, and he says Pochettino did not hold back criticizing his players, calling them soft and lacking maturity. Worryingly, and this is from our friends at the Telegraph, the copy says, worryingly, he did not see enough fight from them. And you mentioned Isak, Jamal Lascelles, Joelinton, and Anthony Gordon on the score sheet. We were talking in the dressing room after the game. We should go directly to the hotel and sleep and start to train early in the morning and not have a day off. We shouldn't just blame the players. We need to blame all together, and this is the process of learning and understanding that we want to compete at the level people think we should compete at. We have a very talented squad, but to compete is different to playing. And so he's debating getting the off day. I'm disappointed and angry. It is normal to blame yourselves after this type of performance, and we need to blame ourselves. We conceded so easily, and that is why I'm so disappointed, but it is not just our defensive line. It was our worst game of the season, and we have to blame ourselves. I'm not talking about mistakes. I'm talking about energy, and we were not prepared in the best way to compete today. That is my concern. We were so soft in every single challenge. We didn't show that we were playing for something important. It is about showing personality and character. We need to be more solid in this idea that my teammate will help me if I made a mistake. We have to be ready to compete. We can all play football, but to be ready to compete, we weren't ready. Against Manchester City, we were focused and fought to the end. The big teams perform this way every 3 days, and that is what we need to do, end quote. Holy ish from Mauricio Pochettino.
Yeah. I will say that, you got to respect it a little bit. I like that when a coach is able to kind of, be like, listen, this isn't working. How do we fix it? What's going on? What do we need to do to kind of fix it? And I mean, I'm happy that he's not blaming just the players, because it's not just a player issue. It's a culture issue.
Yeah.
It's especially with the way he's describing it, it doesn't seem to me like it's a we're just not competing talent-wise. It also seems to me that there's a culture issue going on at Chelsea, that they're not able to connect with each other. They're not having that thing, and it's hard to have that, culture on the field, on the pitch, and actually have that energy and that passion to play and play well if you don't have that off of it as well. And that's, I feel, is in any sport, I mean, if you don't have that, it's hard to kind of like care and like have each other's backs and know what's going on if, you don't have that.
All right, so it is confirmed. Glenn Davis will be on with us to discuss Benny Ball and the Houston Dynamo, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So that'll be good. Yeah, Glenn's a friend of the network and a friend of the show. So it's he's one of the great voices and great people in the sport, and has been espousing the virtues of Houston soccer for quite some time. So we'll get to talk Dynamo with Glenn Davis tomorrow morning.
Well, you got to mention Franco Escobar, because Franco Escobar, playoff
Franco. That's right.
Unreal.
We'll talk playoff Franco, and that reminds me, I probably should try to track down Kevin Egan too and figure out what Kevin's timeline is during this postseason before Kevin Patrick gets on TV again. Okay. D. Graham, as much as Chelsea paid for their roster, it's embarrassing for sure. You ain't kidding.
Oh, absolutely.
By the way, I mean, I was getting into this discussion over the weekend. As Bully Clear Lake basically is just they want all the toys. Have you ever been across someone who just basically wanted everything in the store? They go walking into the grocery store, the department store, the toy store. I want that. I want that. I want that. It's like Veruca Salt almost from Willy Wonka. And I want it now. But, Bully Clear Lake, they just want every player from Chelsea. Chelsea just is like, bring them in. I want this guy. I want these dudes, all this kind of stuff. They pay all this money. And we find out once again that, you know what? Money doesn't get you everything. It just gets you all them players.
No. I mean, because you can have some of the best ranked players in the world, but if they're not connecting and they're not doing and they're not producing what needs to be done, then what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
What's the point in even paying that much money for a player when you have players who are younger than them and coming from leagues and other places where they're not really as well known, coming in and making a huge impact in the game? And I think it goes to show that, you can pay as much money for a player, but, money doesn't equivalent talent. And I think that is something that people forget. Crazy. I know. It's nuts.
Wow. I've never thought of that before.
Listen, it's a weird concept these days, but hey.
No question. All right. So what's next for you in SDH land?
I am actually going to be in the process of figuring out and finalizing a final episode for Soccer is in Session to close out a little bit of the college aspect of things, kind of an overview of everything that's been going on in college soccer, and then kind of prepping for January. I got to kind of do some research on that, see if there's anything else I want to do, maybe get some coaches interviews, some player interviews over capping the season. But yeah, so be on the lookout for that. I don't know when that will be out or what will be going on, but hopefully I hope to have that planned out this week and hopefully to have it posted this week.
Well, you've got all the space in the world, so anybody you grab, that will take the 1v1s all day long, and it'll be good to catch up with everybody for postmortems and such. And you've also got Prem and Proper for Friday.
Yes, I do.
So are you amenable to having Prem and Proper the review on Mondays, for the last half hour, 20 minutes of the show?
Absolutely. I'm on.
So then there we go. So Prem and Proper the review is now on Mondays here during the holiday season, and we'll catch up with everything going on the Premier League and life in England, as Jason and Nick say. So we'll do that to wrap up we'll do that with Maddie on Mondays to wrap up what's going on in the Premier League, and we will continue to discuss. So we will catch up with you soon, and we will hear you across the network and on Prem and Proper on Friday. Be good, my friend.
You too. I'll see y'all later.
All right, that's Maddie. And so Maddie is cruising through the Prem. She's going to be doing that all season long. And so before we go, check and see if there's anything else going on in the world when it comes to folks and things and the papers. And so once again, avoiding the 3 and the 4 letter papers as we always do, because we can't quite pay attention to the 3 and the 4 letter paper unless in gossip, rumor, and innuendo we sit there and go, you know what, we got to pay attention to this and understand that it comes from the 3 and the 4 letter paper. Arsenal, okay, so according to Tony Adams at the Daily Mirror, Arsenal could have held off Manchester City to win the Premier League last season had Unai Emery been in charge instead of Mikel Arteta. Tottenham might have to wait for Juve to make their move for Jadon Sancho before they are able to secure a deal with the Italian club for Samuel Illing Jr. And once again, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter papers because they want to talk about boxing. A Scottish, and this is in the Sunday Times, a Scottish cabinet minister is under fire for running up a huge data bill that he then tried to claim on the public purse is under further pressure after it was revealed he'd attended Celtic matches despite saying he had no interest in the team. Of course. Michael Stewart has written off a Rangers title threat, reckons the league trophy will be heading back to Parkhead this season. Liam Scales is reportedly on the radar of a top European club ahead of the January transfer window. Maurizio Sarri faces a day of reckoning against Celtic on Tuesday, with the Lazio boss being told his position is safe, but only for now. So, Lazio, keep an eye on Lazio and Celtic. Is Sarri ball on the ropes? And keep an eye on that. So, it was an interesting weekend, to say the very, very least. According to some of the papers, I know this will come as a shock, but Steve Cooper might be under pressure at Nottingham Forest. Who knew, right? Apparently, he needs a win as his owner is growing increasingly frustrated. You know, I hate to break it to folks, but they're even with the number of wins that they had, and they were a month early in doing that. That's just me. Unai Emery's played down reports suggesting Douglas Luiz could be leaving Villa for Arsenal in January. Quote, I want to keep him. I think he's happy with us. His performances are amazing. I want him. Yannick Bolasie has signed a short-term deal with Swansea City in the Championship. 34-year-old bolsters Michael Duff's forward options. He'd been a free agent following his departure from Rizespor at the end of last season. And he'll be involved in Wednesday's trip to face Leeds. Pep Guardiola, a year on from signing a contract extension, remains non-committal about whether he'll stay longer than 2025, admits that his new signings have energized him. Lower divisions have some new folks who have been appointed as new coaches after folks have been sacked after 6-0 defeats. Bologna sporting director Marco Di Vaio says that Lewis Ferguson will not be moving in the January transfer window. Impressed in Serie A this year, 3 goals, 3 assists in the top flight. Kevin De Bruyne is hoping, he was in Abu Dhabi at the Grand Prix. He hopes to make a return to football in the new year after he suffered the hamstring injury. Donny van de Beek has revealed his desire to make a January move away from Manchester United. 26-year-old has played just 21 minutes of action for Erik ten Hag this year, appearances off the bench against Palace and Newcastle. Van de Beek revealed that he was close to joining Real Sociedad in the summer. Talks broke down in the last minute. And once again, we talked about Victor Osimhen being the top target for Chelsea. So, D. Graham, I know Adams is Mr. Arsenal, but that's just a poor opinion. He didn't like it when Wenger came in either. I know. But once again, you're also, D. Graham, you're also trying to sit there and you make waves. Try to sit there and get a quote so folks can sit there and gravitate towards you and go, that's a great quote. Tony Adams has spoken. Those kinds of things. Oh, we've gone on the plus side. Thanks to Maddie for coming on. Prim and Proper, the review will be how we wrap up our Mondays here in the holiday season. May your card that you use for your transactions today not smoke and melt in the middle of the floor. I know that I'm going to be doing a lot of activity today because it's Cyber Monday. So may Cyber Monday be kind to you. Thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. Glenn Davis joining us tomorrow. And we will be discussing Houston Dynamo. Toyota Field's going to host the men's national team for an international friendly against Slovenia on January 20th. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. But it'll be fun to catch up with Glenn. It's been entirely too long since we've had Glenn on the show. And so we'll have Glenn Davis talking about Houston Dynamo and playoff Franco tomorrow. 9:05 as always. And then Wednesday, your traffic. Hopefully Dylan Butler back from the holidays at 10. I know that we'll have plenty with Bart at 10:30. Hell, we might even have to bring Bart back. Nico coming on Thursday at 10:30 to discuss things in Seattle. and our friends at Beyond Goals at 9:30, and looking at everything for the weekend, previewing everything there. Prem and Proper will be released on the network on Friday, getting ready for a very, very busy weekend in the Prem. But it's good to have Maddie come on, and I'm glad that Maddie got to explain what she's doing here at SDH, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that if we have an intern and someone who wants to help us out and wants to do this for a living, that we give them the best opportunities possible. So we'll see what happens there. But no, it's fun to have Maddie in, and the fact that Maddie's just like, hey, you want to do this? Yep. And then she just dives right in. It's great to see. But thanks for embracing her as much as you guys have so far when it comes to Maddie and her time here at SDH. And that will continue, and you'll have Maddie popping up here on the network occasionally, probably with Bart sometimes, doing Prem and Proper, the review, all these different kinds of things. I'm going to try to get Drew Dickinson to come on and turn it into a three-way dance and have people yelling, have Maddie yelling about Newcastle, have Drew yelling about Manchester United, the voices that you traditionally hear on Prem and Proper. Try to bring them in on Mondays when Drew isn't doing his actual work. So that's the show for everybody here. Thanks for going over the MLS playoffs with us as we did. We're down to the Final Four, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow, and we'll continue what's going on here at SDH. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hope your holiday was what you wished for and anticipated, and hopefully we're now on the road to recovery and spending entirely too much money on gifts and presents, especially on Cyber Monday. Hopefully you can get some deals. Atlanta United, by the way, 65% off on their stuff. So go to the website and stock up on your Atlanta United gear. I'm sure it's for a lot of MLS clubs as well. So get to shopping, folks. And we'll be back at it again on 9:05 tomorrow morning. Glenn Davis joining us at 10 o'clock. So play it safe, everybody. Mucha platial. Since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll do it again tomorrow.